Crack open your socket sets. We're going to do an oil and filter change on a VW T5 camper van. Welcome back to the T5 YouTube channel, everybody. Today we're going to look at doing an oil and filter change on a VW T5. My vehicle is a 2 litre TDI. It's a T5.1, manufactured in 2012. So you want to make sure that what I'm showing you today is correct for your own vehicle before you attempt this task. Those of you who have changed oil on a vehicle before will know that it's actually quite a straightforward task. But there's a few things that you're going to need, and I'll just walk you through what I've got here before we go over to the van and get started. Obviously you're going to need a decent socket set. I've also bought a new sump plug. I don't know whether I'll end up using this or not. I thought from looking at it before, the one on the vehicle, that it had an integrated washer, but this new sump plug seems to have a loose one. But I might just swap it out anyway, we'll see. So basically what you need to do with your socket set, I'll show you this when we go over to the vehicle, is you're going to loosen the sump bolt. And then that will drain the oil out, but you need something to drain the oil into. So I've got a drain tray there, an oil pan there, which is pretty decent. That takes, I think, 10 litres, and the VW T5 2 litre TDI takes 7 litres of oil, unlike what the Haynes manual says, which says it takes 4.2 litres of oil. I'm not convinced. So I've armed myself with 7 litres worth of oil, and you need to make sure you get the right type, particularly for the 2 litre TDI. It's a 5 weight 30, but not only that, it also needs to be compliant with the VW 507.00 standard. That way you're not going to run into any trouble with your DPF filter or turbo. So that's what you're looking for. A 5W30 that's compliant with the 507 standard, and you need 7 litres of it for the 2 litre TDI. I'm not sure about the 1.9 or the 2.5. I don't own that vehicle, so you'll have to check that out for yourself. Another thing you're going to need is a 32mm socket. I had one of these from servicing a previous make-up car that I had, and this just clamps onto the oil filter housing, which is a little bit awkward to get to from what I can see. So you're going to need an extension piece, and probably another one from in there, just to get the length to get down, to get that onto the oil filter housing. Obviously I've got a new oil filter there and a new air filter there, and then the new oil will go in via a funnel, and that's all there is to it really. It's dead simple. Hopefully this video will give you the confidence to have a go at this task yourself, because it's really not that difficult. The only thing that you really want to make sure you're not doing is spilling oil everywhere, particularly if you're going to do it on the road in your neighbourhood like me, because you don't want to be pissing off the neighbours by getting oil everywhere. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a stroll over, get the vehicle off the ground, and I'll show you where the oil sump plug is on the vehicle to drain down the current oil. Okay, just to show you what I was talking about before with regards to the oil filter housing. I don't know if you can just see down there. That is the oil filter housing where you need the 32mm socket. First step is to jack the vehicle up. Just find somewhere on the subframe. It jacks up nicely there, and then I'll pop it on axle stands to hold it secure. Okay, so the vehicle's jacked up. You don't need to jack it up far, just take up the slack in the suspension. And this is the sump, and this is a sump bolt here that we need to loosen off to drain the oil out of. There is the driver's side wheel, jack stand on the jacking point, just to give you, just so you can orientate yourself where this bolt is. And there we go. So I'll get the socket, pop it on, loosen it off, and drain the existing oil into the pan. Right, the idea now, guys, is I loosen off this sump bolt with the socket set. It's a 19mm socket. I've got the pan ready. I'll only loosen it off with the socket, and then I'll twist it out by hand. Right, the sump bolt is loose with the socket. You can just see it turning now. Any minute now the oil will start coming out. Get the tray ready to catch. Here we go. hey presto, we're in. Okay, so that's going to be sat there draining for a little while. You want to do this with the engine slightly warm so it drains out quicker. But while it's draining, we'll have a look at the oil filter from the top. Okay, top tip here guys, to get to the oil filter housing using the 32mm socket, I've had to use various extension pieces. And a good tip here is just to gaffer tape the joins, because you don't want to be losing bits of socket in the engine. Right, here we are with the 32mm socket and extensions onto the oil filter housing. I had a clearer picture of it earlier on. You probably can't see it with this in place. Down there somewhere. So essentially now it's a matter of turning anti-clockwise to loosen it. I've got a feeling this is going to leak, so I'll use two hands for this, but it's basically I'm just twisting off the top and then I'll pull it out, and I'll show you that once it's out. So it's nice and loose now, you can probably just about see that. Do the rest by hand. Right, that's the old filter out. I'll show you where it's come out from in the engine. So with a bit of luck there, you should just be able to see the empty housing. So it's just a matter of, this bit stays because that's the bit we've just unscrewed. We whip that bit out, put the new one in with the proper rubber grommets, 1, 2, 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. The new one will come with new rubber grommets, but it's important that they're installed. Put a little bit of oil, new oil around the rim to help it make the seal. That's when the new filter's on, and it just screws back in. Okay, so there's a new filter. That bit goes in the housing. There's the 3 grommets. 1, 2, 3. I'll do that now to the new one, and I'll show you what it looks like when the grommets are on. Okay, so that's the new O-rings on the filter housing with a bit of oil on them to help them seal when we first put them back in. The next thing you want to do is put the actual filter in, and you're looking for the side that says top, which is a bit confusing because it is the top once it's fitted in the engine bay. When you're pushing it on, it feels like it's the bottom, but essentially the top goes in the filter housing, and that's what we'll do now. Okay, it's all in, ready to pop back into the vehicle, and then I'll just use the socket with extensions to tighten it up the other way, the opposite of removal. Right, the time it's taken to change the oil filter, we've almost drained the oil. It's just a couple of drops there. What I'm going to do is give that a couple more minutes to completely finish, and then I'll just pull the tray out, and I'm just, as I've got the new bolt for the oil drain, I'm just going to fit that, why not. Okay, the oil filter housing's back in place. I've popped under the vehicle and I've put the oil drain plug back in, and I'm just going to go under there now and tighten it with the socket, then we're ready to put some more oil in. Okay, so the plug's back in, it's just a matter of tightening it with the socket. I'll give it one go with you on camera, and then I'll need 2 hands to do it properly. Okay. So the used engine oil, all I do with that is tip it into the bottles that I've just emptied with the new engine oil. Spilt a tiny little bit, but it's on an old rag, so no big deal. Okay, let's have a look at resetting the service indicator. Okay everybody, let's have a look at how we reset the service light on a VW T5. My dash is a T5.1, yours might vary slightly, but this is what you need to do. Essentially, you want to be putting the keys in, go to the second ignition, and then you get this little menu in the middle, and you want to be cycling through that, past the clock, to where it says service. I'm due one in 3 days, it says. Turn the ignition off. And then what you need to do is, before you turn the ignition back on, is you need to be holding down this button here. Count to 5. Turn the ignition back on to the second setting. Let go of the button. Then press the left hand button. And you can see there was a little spanner saying it's due a service, which is now gone. And if we cycle back through the clock, back to the service menu, it says I'm not due a service, sorry about the glare, for another 372 days now. Perfect. And that, my YouTube friends, is how you service your VW T5. If you like this video and you find it helpful, please hit subscribe, please like and share. Your support is very much appreciated.